Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the U.S. Wednesday night vBrownBag. Tonight we are going to do part 2 of the vSphere Integrated Containers series, which I am very excited to be hosting. Cody's Odie, where'd that come from? Cody has been awesome, and so a couple of housekeeping notes, and then we'll get this thing started. Please get in on the conversation. I will be monitoring both Twitter and the live feed this evening while Cody is doing his presentation. If you @ vBrownBag or hashtag vBrownBag, I will be able to catch that and answer some questions there and present them to Cody as well. Again, our guest this evening is Cody De Arkland. He is @ Cody De Arkland on Twitter. My name is Chris Williams. I'm @ Mistwire. Feel free to reach out to us as we proceed with the presentation. And without any further ado, Mr. De Arkland, let me get you presenter. Shazam.
All right, let's get that screen action going. Boom. All right, super exciting terminal screen, right?
Cool. I can see your screen.
So, fantastic. So taking a step back, last week we kind of finished up with deploying a vSphere integrated container host. So I want to start at just before that for the people who weren't here, who decided the first part was the not exciting part, so they can see that stuff too. Right. So if we take a look in our vCenter, you'll see we have our pickup 01, which is originally what we were using as kind of holds our, if you remember, that's the Vic appliance, and the Vic appliance that actually holds the Harbor installation for our container management, as well as our, or not container management, I'm sorry, for our image management for containers, and then also the Admiral installation that holds all of our actual management platforms. We're going to take a couple of tours around different ways of configuring today. First, let's jump into actually building another container host. I have the command here, and we'll walk through what that actual command does. All right. Super secret password, right? Actually changed it for this demo, so we can actually look through it. A couple things that we'll call out from the actual installation command. We're doing create from a Linux box, so from a CentOS box. State machine create, we're pointing out an actual target, our actual vCenter target. And core data center is in there using standard logons, name. We're dropping into the management cluster, creating an image store, creating a volume store, and volume stores let us keep persistent data, so we like that. We're using a dedicated bridge network. Well, the bridge is actually dropping onto a VDS. Then we're tying that actual network to be on a 192.100.0.0/16. Public network for inbound connectivity just to the actual management interface, as well as general inbound stuff, so the NATed address and such is all going to be on the public network, so VM network. We're using my DNS server, so it's just an InfoBlocks appliance that I have stood up in my lab. So one at that address. CNAME for the cert, turning off cert verification. We're also including the registry CA flag, and what that's going to do is because we're using self-signed certs now, so I backed out of using the specifically signed ones that I had done and using self-signed now. This is going to tell Docker that that registry cert is an acceptable cert to use, or acceptable cert to use as a registry endpoint. Then the subprint from our vCenter. So if we hit enter, we go off and do all of its magic. This will be really familiar for anybody who was on last week. We kind of beat this dead horse pretty severely. We apologize to anybody who makes donations to PETA on the phone. That was not an endorsement. That was just a comment.
I can neither confirm nor deny that endorsement. I'll just start throwing disclaimers as we go. Don't worry, don't mind me.
That's a great idea. That's I need the legal flag, right?
I'm sorry. What do you say?
We do an info. We can see that we're running integrated containers 1.1.1. We're using storage driver 1.1.1. All good things are happening here. We're very happy. Good to go. So this takes us to where we're at last week. So if we look in here, we can do things like pull Nginx, going to pull down. If we pop into vCenter, you can see these little reconfigures going off as it pulls down the layers and actually saves them into the image store. So if we pop into the data store, which could get scary because I don't really delete things out of here, so hopefully I don't have anything that I shouldn't be showing off. So we pop into the Vic data store. The images folder, still running through. See, it's building all of this directory, all of this content that's part of those images because of how Docker does the layering. I saw that perhaps posted all of the sessions for the rest of the year. There's significant sessions around Docker and containerization, so I'm not going to go too deep into what layering is because I'm not trying to steal someone else's thunder. But no, these correspond to layerings of a container image. Pop back over, you'll see we pulled that image down. And that image has actually been pulled down onto this Docker host, or this actually Docker endpoint that we created. So now if we use one of our handy Harbor install, come in here, this is going to be our Harbor install for the actual image management. Pop over to the management. This is actually Admiral, which is going to be our management interface for containers. So we do add a host. We know if we look at the command, that's the address that we're working with as well as the port. So we can just highlight, grab that, drop that in there, VCH, read the cert, verified successfully, add. After a few moments, it detects it and sees everything. Everything's good. Now, what's really interesting about this is that it'll also do, not only, when you add this, it'll also show any containers that are already running. So this will actually inspect the Docker host and actually pull in whatever it's actually doing. It's kind of cool because that means any containers that are already deployed, you can start managing with this. Let's pop into our registries. We'll see we only have the one registry, so we can't access the stuff from our registry here at this point. Just two lonely little containers in there. Just for grins, I wasn't going to do this, but Chris knows I like to do random demos without planning things out. So
you don't even care. You're the honey badger of demos.
Right, right. All out of that's to give, and it's not Christmas. So. We'll actually log into the Harbor interface, and we'll push an image into it, just for grins. I, too, again, like to live dangerously. I think I actually put that password in wrong. I'm pretty sure I put that password in wrong. Oh, that's why. I know why. I reset the password. All right, we'll come back to that. That's fine. You can add a registry here. Now, if we do a search, we know that from just that previous interface, we have a PyVA image there, which is my Alexa kit that I set up to actually talk to my Amazon Echo. We search for that. Oh, hey, there's Alexa right now.
Nice.
That awkward moment when. But now we'll see that it's actually pulling back from that container. or from that image repository. So it actually sees that. If we had searched before, so if I go into the registries and I kill that registry on the fly, and we try to search for it again, it will not show up. So again, put it back. Registry's there. This one we can go search for PyVA again. We can go into our additional information that we want to do for deploying it. Go network. So we can actually go into, instead of before as a command line, you know, we were used to last week when we did our actual download, we would do a Docker run, D for detached, P for port, 443, and then the container name. So in this case, or if we're going to use a repository, we would go, we would run it like that to actually pull it down and have it actually run. But because we're actually using the interface, we can tell it commands we want to run first. So for example, if we wanted to have a dump right into a command line at build, we could do a /bin bash. We can specify packages here as well as versions. So if you had multiple versions you were working with, we can switch that around. You can link other containers together. So if you have another container that you wanted to point or have communication between, you could do that here. We're not going to do that though, because we're just working with single containers. Do our port binding, choose to publish all ports. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to do something a little bit different later on. We can name the actual container, or we can choose different networking options. Get in. Then we'll provision. We can actually watch it start. It may fail because I actually have that host name living in my network already, so that might not be a happy thing to do. The only downside to this is that when you're running it from a command line, you know, we can see all of these pull details, right, as it runs through and does all of its good things. The fortunate side is inside of here, all we have is this little bar. So when it gets to this point, it's going to hang out there for quite a while. You have to watch vCenter and see if it's actually taking actions. You can see we're moving files around, we're creating new ones. Things are still happening. We just can't see the details around which layer is being pulled, so on and so forth. Eventually, when we pop over here, we'll actually see it finish creating, and it's going to pop out a new VM here with the name below it, or at least we hope, right? Now, another thing about Vic, because of the nature of what it's doing, you know, it's actually creating virtual machines, it's creating file structure inside of a data store. It does operate different from a naked Docker host. The container image might start up a lot faster on a standard Docker image than it's going to start up here. A lot of that's because of the management things that we do to set up that container to be able to be managed within vCenter and treated as a real vCenter object. While that's running, inside of Admiral, we can also manage Docker networks. So say you wanted to use an actual specific network for having this land on its own virtual wire. Go in and create that network. Just bind it to a host. So now anything that provisions onto this Docker host will get a specific network. We even have some basic IPAM capabilities, so we can define the network that ties back into, gateways, so on and so forth. We went here and did that would be our just base regular network in our environment, running DHCP, obviously. Expose it to the entire range, tell it what its gateway is, and then create. Oh, oops. that's now available to be consumed inside the environment. Same thing goes for volumes. I had already created this volume as part of the actual build. So when we actually created it, we ran this command to actually create a new volume that's tied to that host or tied to that that previous container. Let's pop into vCenter and see if we're done yet. Still moving and shaking, still moving things around. All right, so it did fail probably because of the DNS. So close that out. We don't like to pay attention to the failures in life. If I'd used a different host name, it would have worked, but them's the breaks. So this is the standard Admiral interface, standard functionality. Now, an interesting thing is from a management perspective, Admiral runs as a container all by itself, right? So this, on the actual Vic appliance, is itself running as a container. So you don't necessarily have to deploy the Vic appliance to run Admiral. We could use just a standard Docker host. So kill all of the stuff here around Vic specifically. We do just regular Docker info, just running standard Docker on this Linux box. You could do a Docker pull. I don't think it's in the VMware CNA group. Now I have to go look and see what it's named. Typing's hard. VMware Admiral. I was close. Clearly I had already pulled that down before. Now, like before, if we pop open a new one of these, we can go to one. Probably still coming up a little bit fast on the draw there. While that's coming up, we will move on since we are on a fixed schedule here. So now we're going to jump into VRA and show you how you can actually provision containers within the VRA construct as well, which has a strikingly similar view of Admiral. See, we have no containers defined here. So pop back in, we'll grab our original IP address. So it's the vSphere container. You got to see here, and it's going to continue to finish spinning up. Now, if we did a Docker pull, did we make things really upset? Oh, I know I picked the wrong networking, so I hosed the network connectivity to that box. Man, this is not a great night of successful demos. We'll purge that box and restart it. Well, we destroyed that now. And we will bring it back to life. Same IP as before, so that's good.
I've been muted this whole time. I have been muted this whole time. All of my pithy witticisms have been not recorded for posterity. Dadgummit.
That's funny. I was wondering where you disappeared off to.
I was sitting here making fun of your demo skills. Last week we had 3 successful flights of live demos. You didn't even care, and that, well, you know, it's fine. This is live demo time. This is to be expected. But I didn't
slaughter the servers.
Dude, I was railing you. I totally missed my opportunity. Oh well.
Yeah, absolutely did. It happened. So disappointing.
Go team. That's what happens when we record live, folks.
Fucking man. I'm all messed up now.
So Ariel is making fun of us in the audience. So Ariel's in the audience tonight, and he left a question, and I have to say it out loud because it's a question in the forum. Why is Chris so handsome? Is he single? The answer is, Ariel, unfortunately, I'm taken. But you never know. You never know what could happen in the future. So keep your hopes up.
All right, so we have our host added back into containers. We're going to go in here. We're actually going to set this. Make sure all the placements are set right. We're going to go into the placements, and we're actually going to tie it to a business group inside of VRA so that it's actually assignable to a business group. We're going to tell it to run its data collection. We actually missed a step. We're going to create our network that we're going to play with inside of VRA. So we're going to call it LAN BDS. We're going to tie it to this host. We're going to set it on that network. Watch it create. Fantastic. The host, and we'll run data collection again so that it actually pulls all the data down. And this is pulling it down to make it available inside of VRA so that when we go to create an actual blueprint, it'll work. We have our registry added here already. So if we do a quick test search, you see the template we want to work with. We're going to pop over into VRA and design. We're going to build a new blueprint. We're going to call this Gideon, which is what I'm calling my Alexa project. We have this container construct over here that we can work with. So we're going to drag containers out. Name this Gideon. We'll search for an image. We'll call it IVA. finds the image. This is good. For networks, we're going to drag out a container network. Is that a question?
Yeah, real quick. Ken asked, can we map volumes to Vic containers from external stores like NFS SMB, or does it have to use a VMware data store?
In the current implementation of Vic, you cannot. It has to be an actual data store. Docker traditionally can do mapping to other things, but in the current configuration, it has to be one of your mapped VMware data stores. It has to be an object inside of VMware to be able to consume. Like if you mapped an NFS data store, you could use NFS, right? But you would be using an NFS data store then. So it would be a data store living on your NFS, or on your NAS. Sorry, not NFS, but yeah.
Right. Well, you said in its current configuration. Does that mean there's something in the pipe that's going to rectify that?
That means in its current configuration.
Oh, okay.
I cannot comment
Gotcha.
on things that are not a part of my role.
Gotcha.
Current
Gotcha.
configuration.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so created this network. Fantastic. Or set up a network here. We pop into the container. We can actually search for the network we created. Oops. Fantastic. That's bound now. What's really cool about doing it inside of VRA, and you can do this inside of Admiral as well, you can do a health checks on it. You can actually do like a TCP connection over 443 in our case to check and see if it's there. We're not going to play with that tonight, but you can do health configuration checks to make sure your container stays healthy. All right, save, finish. We'll publish this out. Pop into the very easy to use and understand VRA interface. We'll add the container. I pop into the catalog. So you are getting container there. All the details should be what we want it to be. Now, what's interesting about how I'm configuring this container now is I'm actually configuring this container to use a container network. And what that means is that instead of using the traditional NATing and bridging the connection into or across the standard Docker host, we're going to let this plop right onto a network and get its own IP address on our traditional network. And we talked a lot about this last week, about the idea of being able to take Vic, build VMs, and have them drop onto like an NSX-enabled network, and be able to have that network be able to be monitored with vRise Network Insight or any of our other tools. And this is how we start to extend the management capability of the VMware platform to actually use, or the management platform for VMware to be able to actually consume containers and actually manage them for us, right? So using NSX is better, or using containers better with NSX than better without it. And we have our networking already set, so we don't necessarily need to go through that. So the catalog request. Now if we pop into the actual request, we can watch it as it's processed and as it's built. We can also pop over into the container interface and watch the request as they process through. We've done some deletes and such earlier, so. Oops. So we're waiting for it to start. We have our network that we created. We're just checking everything out, make sure it's all there as we wait for it to start. See, all this right now is pulling down the actual container, so it's doing a Docker pull still, so that's why it hasn't started yet. It's still pulling the image down, which takes time the first time, and then after that, subsequent pull downs are much faster. Also, we deleted our image source, so those weren't left behind when I destroyed the previous container. Now, a lot of the same stuff that we do here inside of the container screen and this management, it's important to understand this is all API driven, and there's a lot of sessions coming up for vBrownBag around what does that mean, what is an API, how are APIs used. But the important thing to note is a lot of the same stuff. We go in here and we do a network help. We can do a network list, which is going to crash out because it's still pulling down the other container, so it's not letting us make changes right now because it's in the midst of pulling down other things and doing other work. But we could actually be able to do Docker network list, and it would show the same thing on that actual host. So while it's actually building, we'll build a second host that we can play with some commands with while it's actually doing the build.
Couple of quick questions.
Shoot.
How well is Vic integrated with Power CLI?
Vic is not integrated with Power CLI. You can run, so for example, you could run the container, like the container version of Power CLI Core. Mm-hmm. You could run that on it, but you can't interact with Vic from Power CLI today.
Gotcha. Okay.
So start Vic VM or get Vic VM, for example, doesn't work.
Gotcha. Okay.
Need our thumbprint. Other questions? You said there was a couple. Was there really one?
There was a couple, but you actually answered both questions with that statement.
At least I can do something right tonight.
Oh, right? Stop.
Oh, everyone loves self-pity.
Hold on, I gotta get a little violin. Where's my violin power, my soundboard? Wah, wah.
They all can't be winners, guys. They all can't be winners. Like
the old Primus album, "They All Can't Be Zingers." All the B-sides from the Primus albums.
So interesting error. No powered on container host found in placement zones. So for some reason it got marked as disabled, and as such was not very happy.
Graham just made an excellent statement. If it all went through right the first time, then we wouldn't be learning.
Right?
See?
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah.
I just want to call out Graham and give Graham some kudos for a second. We actually, Fraps and I, well, Fraps had more side of the idea. I just kind of ran with it when he talked about it, was the concept of instead of taking a free shirt, giving a donation to a charity, which Graham jumped on. So Graham, myself, and Fraps all donated, it ended up being $10 each, donating that to a charity, which then, since I'm a VMware employee, VMware matched it. And we reached out to Aaron Bewley and donated it to the Cancer Research Center that his surgeon was taught at. So really cool way how vBrownBag ultimately ended up giving $60 back to a charity out of a simple question answered. So big props, Graham.
Yes, absolutely. Was it to the Bewley Strong Foundation? Was that?
No, it was actually the one. It was the school. I don't remember the exact name, but it was the school which his surgeon was taught at.
That's awesome.
We'd asked him to celebrate him getting past everything. We asked him to pick the foundation, and he gave it to us. So.
That's very, very cool. Awesome. Congratulations again, Graham.
Check our placement zones, make sure those are right. That's there. To make things faster this time, we're going to just do the Docker pull ahead of time. So there was an issue. What happened there and why this failed that time was because of the type of networking I had configured. I didn't check a box I was supposed to check. It actually used all ports that were available on that host, which when you expose all of the ports on a Vic host, you also expose the API port. If you expose the API port, you can't reach the API to do things with. So it can't provision things because you can't reach the API to start a container. So demo fail. We're up to like 4 demo fails in this session. Y'all should have stayed home.
So
watching the vlog.
So we had 3 successful live demos on the fly last time, and we've had 4 fails this time. So we've broken records in both instances.
Which makes me
definitely a good day.
Making me very sad.
Oh, you should be happy. You're a trendsetter. You're a record breaker. We should call Guinness.
Right. Both for successes and failures.
Yeah.
All right, so we're still pulling down that content. If we pop into vCenter, we can see it's still doing things, so we're happy there. We're going to continue reconfiguring Bureau's automation. So we pointed out a new Docker host. We've got our registry. We're going to reconfigure the network that we want. So we're going to do a network create. We'll go in and we'll call it again. Line VDS, do advanced again. Finds that host. It's going to go out over the API and create it. Fantastic. Since we've already pulled it down, the image is now on that box. It's going to take much less time to fail on our demo again. Go in here, we're going to play, make sure everything's set up right again. There we go. We have to wait for the data collection to finish before we do anything. Again, we can set all the commands we want to run the first time. This looks familiar for anyone who was looking at the Admiral screen. We set it before, so if we wanted to set it to automatically do like a bin bash right out of the gate, we could set that up and it would drop us into command line.
Nice.
Yeah, we have to drag down container network first. We're just waiting for the data collection to finish on that actual container host. We already have the network created and everything. We just have to wait for it to finish telling VRA all the stuff that's there. I would show everyone the error logs, which I'll do anyway. There'd be a lot of errors in here from me doing things I shouldn't be doing with the platform. These are not related to the failing here. These are related to me messing around. So. See if our container networks are available now. Just a little bit backwards, actually. We'll go in here, change this around. Instead of using existing, we'll have it go ahead and create its own new one, just for our demonstration purposes. We can tell it to use a specific logging driver if we want and have it dump out to an actual log. That's pretty cool. Finish, publish. Cool, cool, cool. Didn't save the network for some reason. I don't think I hit save when I changed everything around. See the failed error right there. In progress. There we go. So it successfully grabbed an IP from the network now. It had already pulled down the Docker container, so this part should go faster. So it's already standing up the actual container. Should see a lot of activity popping around in here as stuff happens within VRA. Back in. Was that a flat going off that I heard in the background?
Is it that loud? I'll mute myself again. Next time I'll remember to unmute myself before I start talking again.
Again, right now it's just running through all the setup stuff around actually, it's allocated the resources, now it's actually provisioning the container and building it. So look over into vCenter. This is why I like using the command line a little bit more at this stage in the game than using the actual Admiral interface, just because you can see a lot of the polls that are happening and watch actual kind of progress move.
Mm-hmm.
Hop over and look at the container logs, see what it says, and it's disabled again. Interesting failures.
Well,
All that.
But the concept is, I mean, we get the concept, obviously.
Correct. I'm uncertain as to why the failures are happening this evening. I suspect it's because I had a great demo last week.
That has everything to do with it.
Everything to do with it. So. Oh, that's why. So the event logs going to show that it's been marked as disabled for some strange reason related back to a ton of Java errors. Now, however, once this finishes, if we do this a different way and we do it from command line, we do a docker tls pull nginx. We're going to clean up our messes so that with this brand new host that's completely on a different IP and everything, in our last 6 minutes, we can try one last time to have a successful demo. You know, a lot of this is probably ties back to the fact that I've been creating and destroying the same host this whole time, and I'm probably not doing a great job at cleaning up behind itself. Our Vic app registry. Here we can go. Get into templates. Do deploy Gideon v1. 3, don't check the box. Press up the business group first. All right. You all see this concept of templates. Templates are an interesting thing for us to talk about. If you look at, see how this looks a little bit different because it's an actual template that's been set up with specific networking. So if I provision this template off, it'll do all of the same networking the way I have it configured here. So it's much like an actual blueprint within VRA, but it's just a native construct of the Admiral platform and just template of that container build. So if we go in here and we do a provisioning of itself, it should rebuild this in the same way, I guess the same business group, which we're going to do at the exact same time as another build, and ultimately likely fail. This is a good time for Q&A on all of the failures tonight. Since we have to wait for this to finish anyways.
Tons of comments on how badly you suck, but other than that, not a whole lot. I'm joking.
It happened.
I'm totally joking.
It happened. It happened.
Like as Graham mentioned previously, if you don't have things break and then subsequently figure out how to go through them, you're not learning. This has been good in regards to seeing the bumps and bruises of Vic, and I was actually really excited to see how it ran with VRA, because I'm trying to get my feet wet with VRA as we speak. So this has been, even with everything happening, it's been awesome.
Well, I'm glad there was some value out of it.
Totally, absolutely.
Again, all the stuff was working last night. So I don't know what happened between today and yesterday, but them's the breaks, right? Like you said, you're never going to learn if you don't have stuff break on you. And I'll be taking this stuff back to people internally and being like, hey, why did my vBrownBag demo fail so hard over and over and over and over and over and over?
And honestly, if we want to re-record this, I absolutely would be totally fine doing that. That's not this. I mean, if this is something that you want to crank out with like I said, I like seeing it when it fails too, because it shows how it really works. But if you also want to do another one, we can set that up as well.
Yeah, I might take you up on that. That might be a good option here to have it actually see work, so that there's for long-term posterity's sake.
Yeah, totally.
We can actually show that off.
Yeah, so. I'm totally down for that.
So what I just ran through and did, just for people to actually understand where I was clicking around so much, is I actually went in and recreated a new network just using the pure Admiral interface instead of the VRA integration. Went in and created a new network for that new container we just built. I went into the templates, and templates are much like a vCenter template or a VRA blueprint. It's a way to build a repeatable container. So if you always know, for example, looking at the Nginx build, if you always know that you're going to use a specific network with a container, you always want it to be on a specific network that you have configured. You always want it to run the same commands, like you always want port 85 mapped to port 80. You can save the template and have it actually configured in that way. You can link up your actual container that same way, then save the actual template. Okay. And it should hypothetically, if your demo is not failing left and right, provision with those same configurations every time. Here we go, Docker images. Yeah, for some reason we have really made the platform upset tonight.
You have angered the demo gods with your with your flagrant flaunting
my insolence. My insolence. Well, that's that, guys. 5 minutes left to spare and nothing but failures. Don't really have a good answer for you. Apologize for wasting everyone's time tonight.
So I disagree. I don't think that this was a waste. I think this was good exposure regardless. But I certainly do appreciate your time. That was this is the breaks. This is what happens when you have live demos. Sometimes it works smashingly. That's why VMworld always insists that instead of doing live demos, you have a pre-recorded success.
Yeah.
For the big draws.
Well, I'd rather people see me fail than assume everything's always going to work right 100% of the time. And you know, this really goes to show that the product is a relatively new product, right? Integration with containerization is still young inside the VMware ecosystem. And there's going to be problems, there's going to be hiccups along the way. You know, designing a blueprint inside of VRA and deploying a template machine, we've been doing templating for what seems like forever now, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a lot that goes wrong with that, and usually if there is, it's because you did something wrong. I'm definitely going to get back and trace back why these were failing so hard and see if I can get the business units to take a look. Because like I said, they were working fine last night. So it does show the youngness of the platform, though. Because the funny thing is, all of this stuff would work flawlessly from the command line, right? Doing all this directly from the command line would be no issue at all. So
right, gotcha.
You win some, you lose some.
Okay, cool. Well, Cody, thank you once again for doing this. We'll chat offline to do a third one, and we'll definitely get that knocked out as well, so that we can see it shine as well.
Great.
All right, thanks, Cody. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.